What's going on, everyone? I just want to apologize first out. If you notice, my sound is coming through my camera for probably the first 20 or 30 minutes or so, maybe a little bit less depending on how far the edits go. It was a mistake. Nobody really realized it till like later on. They finally told me, so that's why I sound really low on the sound, but then eventually come back. It was a mistake. I apologize for it. It's something I couldn't control at this point. So just to give you a heads up, so that's why my sound is really bad at the beginning of this episode. So anyways, without further ado, enjoy the episode either way, because I know you will. But thank you so much for watching as always, guys. Bye.
There is a fifth dimension.
A dimension of sound.
Damn it, Frank! Will you tell him to be quiet? I spilled my hot cup of Uranus again.
A dimension of sight.
Hey, Arch. I'm gonna sock you in the puss.
A dimension of mind.
Nan Adams, is that you?
Next stop, the Twilight Zone.
Hi, guys. Welcome to the Fifth Dimension of Twilight Zone podcast. I'm your host, Nick. We're back, of course, to talk I guess it's the wrap up for season 4. What Jacob calls the greatest season of television ever known by man.
I didn't say that.
That was his words, not mine.
You did say it wasn't as bad.
That's right.
Yeah, they told me
I do
in private,
remember
like,
that.
this is the greatest.
It was
season
nowhere
I've
near
ever
as bad
seen.
as everybody led me to believe. That's
Hey,
for sure.
the only person
Yeah,
that
not
said
as
that
bad.
season 4 was shit was this guy to my left.
I would never say that. I've never said that in my life.
Yeah.
You got
Jake had a
the laser disc
Star Wars
version?
marathon.
Right?
Huh?
You got the laser disc version?
Yeah, it's the mini laser disc version. See?
Well, no, you know about the original like the original cut is supposed to be like the laser disc.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy they can't bring out the original version.
Well, they don't want to because Lucas made it better.
Yeah.
He made it.
16
He
times.
made it better. Apparently they thought he made it so good that they gave him the Palme d'Or at Cannes. So
Oh God. Anyway,
yeah.
I
know
mean,
too
Killer
much.
Condoms also went to Cannes.
Did it really?
Not it wasn't supposed to be there, but they went there.
Okay, so season 4, it was an interesting season. It's one that I don't remember very well. It's one that going into it, I did say that I heard a lot of bad things because it's true. I mean, we all know, have all heard that this season is pretty, to most people, it's pretty lackluster. I mean, it's hour long. He was fighting with the studio. It was one of those things where, it had I Dream of Jeannie and it had The Bard and it had Jezebel and, Triv, you even said yourself oh, by the way, I should probably say Triv, Jacob, and Alex are here to talk about the 4-season wrap up. So I know I'm getting into the episode or the actual whatever, but
The meat and potatoes of it, they're a.
yeah. So thank you for coming on again, as always. But yeah. So anyway, so these few episodes are considered some of the worst. I know, Triv, you talked about for the longest time, even since like the first episode, about how much you hated Jezebel.
Oh, yeah.
Jizzy balls.
Yeah.
Jizzy balls.
It's just one of
Yeah.
those episodes that always stuck out, and the fact that it was, and we're gonna get more into it, but the fact that it would have been weird at a half an hour, but at an hour long, that one for me especially amongst the ones that we've got was just too long. It went on for too long. It didn't do much. It just kind of, yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, I think of all the people on this current podcast episode, I think, Alex, you were the most positive because there were episodes on the season. I think there were episodes on the season that you actually were talking about how much you enjoyed. So I once again, my non-optimism for things sometimes can bleed through, and Jacob was more optimistic, like, oh, I'm gonna end up liking this season. And yeah, I don't know. It ended up being a lot better than I thought it was. I mean, I sent you guys the list. I kind of put up the list for season
Yay.
4, and the top 10 episodes are above number 50, or as this current list, number 50 on our
It's more than
current
half
list.
the season.
Yeah. So
I'm so glad you can do math.
No. Public school system did not fail me this time.
Woo-woo.
Just
Thank
you wait,
God.
Jacob. Just you wait.
I went to college.
But it was surprising because once again, going into it very, I don't know what the word is called, but going into it not a lot of optimism. It tends to,
Pessimistically.
yeah, thank you, pessimistically, yeah. It was just surprising. Whoever wants to go can go, but I was shocked that I was not expecting to have any of these episodes anywhere close to the top 10, and we had Death Ship at number 13 and Miniature at number 16. So I don't know. It was an interesting season, and it was shorter. It was a little longer than it should have been for some episodes, but it was a pretty consistent season for what it's worth, outside of a couple episodes. So
Which
I
one
don't
was
know.
the one with the robot guy who we didn't find out was a robot to the end? He's
Uh
alive
In his image.
Yeah.
in his image.
oh yeah, it was like the second episode, I think, or the first
Yeah.
or something.
Oh, I thought that
Mhm.
was higher than 48. But anyway, go ahead.
No, anyone can interject at any point.
I know for
Like I
me.
said, no structure to this episode.
Hey, I
so
think Jake wants to go first.
yeah, Jacob.
Do you? Is that what you think? I liked this season. I mean, it, like any other season of any television show besides Battlestar Galactica, had bad episodes, but it going into it, like Nick said, I've seen all of them at some point, like I've mentioned before, but I just don't remember a lot of them because it was over 20 years ago. And I don't know, I was just going off of what I say everybody, what I kind of the general consensus was, it wasn't such a great season. It's the lesser of all 5 seasons. And I don't think so. I just sitting here thinking about it, we could probably go through each episode and be like, oh, well, there's more better in this season than 4. But coming off of 3, I've said this a few times, I felt like I enjoyed this season as a whole more than I did season 3. Not saying season 3 is bad, but as I've said a bunch of times, I just felt like while season 3 had some bangers, it also had a whole lot of mediocrity. And quite honestly, a bad episode is more entertaining to talk about than a mediocre episode. A mediocre,
True.
middle of the road, just kind of episode, you just don't have anything to say about it. You're just like, yeah, it's fine. Where's it going? Nah, I don't know, 60 or or 70 or something. But a bad episode, you can really tear it an asshole, a new asshole. And a good episode, you can just praise. And a middle of the road one, which I feel like a lot of season 3 were, is no fun. But
I
this one,
mean,
I feel like it had some solid, really good episodes.
there are still 11 through 18 still middle of the road though. So I mean,
Well,
technically,
yeah, but
this is still half and half.
I feel like a lot of those, I don't know. I was also enamored by how, or really intrigued by how some of these episodes, because I thought it was going to be like full of fluff, because they're an hour long now or 50 minutes. I thought it was going to be like 20 minutes, like just tons and tons of fluff. And every conversation would be, oh, they could have cut this, they could have cut that. We did have that conversation a few times, but it was nowhere near as much as I thought. I thought they filled the time with a good portion of these episodes. I thought they filled the time block very well, because that I knew was a big hot button. Was they're mandated hour long now, so I thought it was going to be like more or less 30-minute stories stretched out to an hour. But I didn't get that with most of them. I mean, there were a few, but most of them I felt like, no, man, they utilized the time well. And there were even a few that I was like, they could have told this story in 30 minutes, but I feel like the story is better having stretched it out and gotten more, nuance out of things, or more character building, world building, whatever it may be for the episode. I feel like I said that more than they could have that was all fluff. They could have just cut it out.
And I would say that we always joke about I think a good chunk of people joke about how, like Nick said, the hour-long format of this was a death blow for Twilight Zone, and nothing good came out of it. But the thing, like anything else, you still had Rod Serling behind it. He was doing what he could to make quality episodes, even though he was shackled with the 50-minute format. And no, not all of them were bangers. In fact, but I think he did what he could with what he had in front of him. He still gave it everything he had to be able to put out good episodes. And you can feel his fingerprints on here, both in the strengths and the weaknesses. But it is still Serling doing the work. So, and there is a vast array of interesting stories. Some of them weren't told as well as others, but he didn't, just say, well, I'm going to tell, 10 sci-fi ones and 10, ones that remind you of, my time in service or anything. He really like told a variety of stories.
I guess it's my turn.
Yeah.
Yay!
So I came on to the podcast for Miniature, which was episode 8 of 18. So I haven't like rewatched all of the episodes except for kind of the ones that I appeared on, because I wanted to do my homework and showed up prepared. I will say though, just from kind of revisiting it at least a little bit, just through the podcast and everything, that I feel that my sentiments towards season 4 were the same, which were that, oh, I actually quite liked this season. And I felt that sort of the criticisms given towards it that I remember learning about when I initially watched it, where I just felt didn't align with how I felt about it. Obviously, Miniature is my favorite episode of season 4. And I was able to talk about that and kind of how it personally resonated with me and everything. But I feel like even the episodes that I didn't come on for before this, I feel kind of range from being fairly solid to maybe being, there. And then you don't have to see it again. But I think overall that, I don't know, I thought the season offers quite a lot of fun, and it definitely was very experimental. I know there's a series called The Outer Limits that I've mentioned before that also runs for all those episodes run an hour, and it very much was an anthology series that occurred. I want to say they're releasing episodes like not long after the Twilight Zone ended, or like kind of within the same sort of time frame. But when I watched that series, I very much enjoyed it, and I feel like a lot of where I stood with certain episodes being either kind of better off as 30 minutes or more being, utilized really well with that hour timeline. For that series, I felt also reflected with the episodes that I liked versus didn't like here. So I don't know. I feel like having an hour-long anthology, sort of series format isn't necessarily anything that's, I guess, unfamiliar now just because of series like Black Mirror existing and kind of taking upon that and sort of embracing it. But I feel like for the time having, these individual storylines, essentially kind of edge towards being more feature length, I think it's very interesting to get to, reflect on now and sort of talk about.
Yeah, because you can still do interesting things with hour-long episodes. It's just
Mm-hmm.
the way they try. I guess the reason most people don't really care for this season is just because your brain's so trained on that 30-minute quick in and out that when it goes to an hour, it's like, and then it gets to like episodes like Jezebel and Cliffordville and stuff like that. It's just like, I think you're better off doing a half hour. But then you get to like Death Ship and you get to like Miniature and you get to these episodes which have thought-provoking ideas. We talk about on Thursday We Leave for Home and the idea of cults and stuff like that, or like I said, Death Ship and the idea of like, people not wanting to move forward. And then you have like Miniature, it deals with, people who have situational issues in their life. And it just like it really is, it should always be more about, does the story need the time does it need the time, or does it not have enough time? And some of these episodes prove that the time was more than adequate and more than justified. Some episodes weren't. And I'm going through the Reddit. I'm just, as you guys are talking, I'm just like looking up Reddit on season 4 and stuff like that. Reddit's always the competent, quote unquote competent. I'm
In other
joking,
words, he's
but
not listening to us.
I am listening. I am listening. Trust me, because But no. I'm listening. I'm doing double duty. So shut up. No, I'm just
Double duty.
double duty.
He said duty.
Yeah. No. But as you guys were talking, I was looking up like the biggest consensus of season 4, or what we pretty much ranked as we did. Most people love Death Ship, Miniature. Most people hate Jezebel and I Dream of Jeannie in the Bard. It's pretty consistent across the board. It just shows you that, for instance, on Thursday We Leave for Home is probably the most popular episode that most people liked. And it just,
Interesting.
yeah, it is. It basically shows that this season may be underappreciated and underestimated. I think most of the time people like myself, hear about, even though I've seen season 4, just don't remember it. Most people see season 4 as this like black sheep of the Twilight Zone, and it turns out most people maybe didn't watch it. I mean, that's kind of where it boils down to. It seems like most people who bash on the either the Twilight Zone or the 4th season have never watched it before, and sometimes you got to give it a shot. And
Well, it's kind of like how people have like this. If you talk to people that, I think everybody's aware of the Twilight Zone. Like if you say Twilight Zone or you play the theme, even people like younger people they're at least aware of that it
yeah, but most of
exists.
the time they'll go to those 4 or 5 episodes, which are not necessarily a bad thing. You know, you're going to like
If
the
that, I mean, some of them don't
I
even know those episodes. They just think, oh yeah, it's the Twilight Zone. It's like a
the
pop culture
glasses.
thing. They
Yeah,
all
yeah.
think it's like
Mhm.
horror. Like they think that it's like mostly just like horror things or horror themed. And there's actually very few horror themed Twilight Zone episodes.
Yeah.
But like I've seen a lot of people when you talk to them, they think they relate it to more horror based, and it's really not. I think it's got a few, but it's not really that much horror in it.
I
I
always saw it
mean,
as sci-fi personally.
yeah.
I mean, I did
Before I
too.
watched it.
Slash
But even
futuristic
when we
drama.
started this, I had seen them even, but it's just like it was this thing stuck in the back of my head. It was like sci-fi. Yeah, sci-fi definitely, but I did feel like there was more horror in it just by the way I hear people talk about it.
It's in essence
Or
more. It's in
thriller,
essence
maybe.
that genre that is called sci-fi fantasy is what you would technically call it. Because you can look at the list of what we watched so far, and they're invaders. I guess you could consider horror sci-fi. Monster Duo Maple Street you could consider horror, but most of it is just it's
They're
sci-fi
thriller.
fantasy.
I think they're more
Well, thorough.
thriller
Yeah, I
than
mean,
horror.
Yeah.
horror
So
thriller.
they're
Yeah, I
they're
mean,
connected. But I mean,
yeah.
I
I
think
mean,
that's to that point. I was saying, I think that's how a lot of people probably just view season 4. It's just become known for whatever reason. Whoever said why, I don't know. It's become known as season 4 is bad, and I think there's a
yeah.
lot of people that they either haven't watched it under the guise of this is season 4, and I'm watching it for quality wise, or they've just it's been so long, and I think it's just kind of stuck in a lot of people's heads that season 4 bad. Even before we started talking about it, it wasn't as on the forefront of my mind, but I still knew when you said that, I was like, oh yeah, I've heard that season 4 is not great.
I was gonna say too that when I initially, that was kind of why I was raising my hand. But the reason why I guess wanted to mention something, I will talk first. Thank you. When I initially watched The Twilight Zone, I did it through Netflix because I saw it was there. Like, mind you, this was like in the middle of the pandemic, and when
Is
I
it on
saw
Netflix?
it was on Netflix in like
Okay.
2020. It's
Wow.
on. I mean, fun fact: when I watched it, that's just on Netflix they had all but season 4, and then when I looked into it, I was like, oh, we're season 4. But I was like, okay, I'll just kind of continue watching everything, and then that's when I found that Hulu had all 5 seasons. I'm pretty sure, and I was like, oh, there's these episodes, but I wonder why season 4 just isn't there. So maybe it could have been a thing where, I guess, depending on licensing or
Yeah,
whatever.
so make copyright
To
issues.
Yeah,
illustrate,
they might have like, at least as far as maybe the deal between Netflix and like CBS Paramount, that they're like,
Yeah,
oh yeah,
because
like we want to have majority of the episodes, but like we
to
won't have all
illustrate
of it.
the
And this
age
was like
gap.
pre Paramount Plus 2 for me. I know also when I watched The Outer Limits, it was through some like TV streaming platform called like Pluto TV or something.
Oh yeah,
And I
yeah.
was able to
Pluto.
watch it for free, but I remember seeing Twilight Zone stuff on there too. So
I've
I
I mean,
actually
watched it
I
through
watched
guess
it
that
Netflix
there.
definitely
too.
depends. Yeah.
Yeah, I
I
actually
watched it
watched
through Netflix 20 years
Uh,
ago when you had to have the disc sent to you.
um,
I actually watched a good chunk of season like everything pre season 4 on Pluto if I was out and about or I didn't have time during the day to
yeah.
like grab my discs or wherever. But yeah, season 4 isn't on Pluto either. So it goes 1,
Mhm.
2, 3, 5.
yeah, it's
Interesting.
on
Yeah.
Freevee. It's on Freevee and Paramount Plus right now. So,
Hmm.
which I enjoy Freevee, but there's a point where there's too many commercials in one episode. So I'm just
Crazy
like,
how
Yeah.
streaming was the whole thing about getting away from commercials and all that, and now they all have
dude,
Yep.
not just commercials
like
at the
I don't want to get
beginning,
into
but
like
in the
a
middle.
whole.
Yeah.
I don't want to get into a whole rigmarole, but fucking Amazon Prime paying it,
Yeah,
paying
you
their
pay
monthly
for
fee,
it.
and then they're like, oh, you need to pay $3 more to get. No, I'm like, no, no, no.
I pay for Amazon Prime, Hulu, all that. I don't really watch Hulu anymore, but I pay for these services, but then I still get advertised. I mean, I don't hate advertisements as much as some people, but I am sitting there kind of like, why am I paying for this if I get advertising too? Don't I pay
Yeah.
you to make up for the advertising revenue you're losing? I don't know. Whatever.
I don't
Thank you,
know.
Netflix, for not advertising.
No, they advertise. You just don't pay for it. You already pay more
Well,
for
I
it.
mean, for your, I know that's a new tier they have, but
Yeah,
for your
Disney
Mm.
Plus.
most people, I think with
Yeah.
Netflix don't have advertisements.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that one because we've talked about it ad nauseum prior
What,
to
Jezebel?
starting. Yeah, I mean, I feel as if it was a hot button leading up to this season, and we finally got there. We
You know,
saw Triv's
that
favorite
was
episode.
true.
Yeah, you're right, it
Well,
was me.
not clearly not just
Like season
her.
4.
It's not really seen as a great episode overall.
And it wasn't.
How did and I admittedly I didn't think it was as bad as I had been, I understand Triv, you have like this true deep rooted disdain for it, and that's fine. I understand that.
Yeah.
I didn't think it was that bad. I didn't think it was good. But I was like, well, it's not that bad. But I do gotta say, how did Earl Hamner Jr. write such a bad episode? I mean, he does so good on everything else.
Okay,
Jacob,
how
be
did
honest, have you? Is there? You can't tell me there's not a bad episode of The Waltons. That
Oh,
he wrote.
The second to last, kind of like with Twilight Zone. I think it's the second to last season. It's either the second to last or third to last season is awful. But I don't even know if he
Exactly.
was
So it
still
happens.
there. A lot of people had left. They replaced the main character with somebody else and tried to work it into the story and just at the same time act like nothing was different. And people were like, that's not even the same person. Now he
It's
has
like-
amnesia.
Well,
And
I
but like,
can-
yeah, they had like paranormal stuff going on, and
I
there's
can
all
tell
kinds of crazy shit.
you some of my favorite shows of all time are Lost, Friends, The Simpsons, and South Park.
Lost.
I
has
could
such-
tell you at least 20 because there's such long seasons for each episode series or many seasons. I could probably tell you 50 episodes that are terrible. I mean, it's the unfortunate nature of like sometimes you have a great idea and you just don't execute very well. And Earl Hamner Jr., I think he hits more than he misses on the Twilight Zone anyways, but
well, yeah.
Jezebel has an interesting premise. It's just not executed very well.
Its
And I know
execution was
boring.
the worst
Yeah.
part. But I
Mhm.
mean, like any show, there's bad episodes except for
Yeah.
Battlestar Galactica.
except for when they go to Earth. Yeah, that forces
Hey,
you to-
hey, Nick,
Hey,
your
you-
audio is
you-
doing something funky.
I was gonna mention that, but I didn't want to be that
What do you
guy, and I
mean?
was like, maybe I'm just hearing it
I
wrong.
don't know what it
sounds
is.
like
It's
a
kinda-
different.
Sounds
you-
like
you-
there's a bird in your room.
There's an echo, almost like you're being recorded. Like your mic is not picking it up. Something else, like maybe
Oh.
your camera mic. It doesn't sound
How-
quite.
has
It
it been
doesn't
like
sound
that the
That's
whole
bad.
one way
time?
to say it.
Yeah, it's not bad. It's just
Oh
it's,
my god, it's been recording my camera. It's been doing the
Yeah,
whole
I told you. I knew it
stupid- hold on.
sounded off. I was just thinking that, but I was like, maybe it's just me. I got water in my ear from the beach.
So the whole time you guys can
There
hear
he
me
is.
better now.
Yep,
So
yeah.
the whole time I've been recording. I don't know why, but when I switched over to the video broadcast, it like completely ejected all my USB. I don't know why.
Yeah, I've been thinking that like the whole time. I was like,
Why didn't you guys say something
Me?
earlier?
Well, I was thinking
God.
about it, but I was like,
You know
I
what
don't
I was
wanna
gonna say? It's gonna be
"Hey,
like-
you sound like shit, and then you're like, that's just my mic, and I'll be like, you sound great.
No, that means like 20. We've been talking for like a half hour now, and it's gonna
Because you
sound
got like
shit.
the nicest mic
okay.
out of
I
everybody.
couldn't
Well, I
even
don't-
tell.
I just started to notice it, honestly.
It was only like for a minute where I was like, I feel like there's like some kind of like tiny woodpecker, like
Yeah, it was
being
kind of weird. It
No,
was
I
like,
have my fan on.
That's what I
My
felt.
fan's on, so
Yeah.
that might be what it
Tangy
is.
woodpecker in Nick's room. Control.
I know,
yeah,
but well, I didn't
tiny
realize it was
woodpecker.
from Nick. I was like, is that for me? Like, is that
Nick-
out? Is that in my room?
Nick has been in the Twilight
Couldn't
Zone, the audio
tell.
Twilight Zone. He is back now.
Yay.
Yeah.
See, now I'm gonna have to do one of those. Hello, everyone. I just wanted to let you know for about
It's
a half
Nick from the
hour. Nick
future.
sounds like shit. I've had to do that before on our
Oh,
podcast.
no.
Like the one episode, like for some reason I was recording to the cloud, and when you record to the cloud, it makes it so instead of having all four boxes together in one
Whoever's
video, whoever's talking, and then it becomes so discombobulated that it becomes just out of control, and I hated it. That whole episode just pissed me off because like god damn. But anyways, yeah, so Triv hated the fourth season, or she liked the fourth season. Jezebel. Were we talking about Jezebel?
Yeah.
We're
Yeah.
Earl Hamner Jr. But we decided, all seasons or all shows have their bad episodes except
Yeah.
for Battlestar Galactica. So,
Except for that
It's
fourth season of
understandable,
Battlestar
but
Galactica.
oh, that was a good
When they
season.
returned
That
to
was a
Earth.
great ending. don't care what
No, it
anybody says.
wasn't.
It was. That
I
was a great
puked.
ending. That was like, oh wow, that's neat.
I
They brought
I
it
puked.
don't know.
all
The
around.
boys are fighting.
Yeah. What else is new?
Nick just doesn't want you guys to be aware of quality
I'm a.
television.
Have you seen the movies I
Lost, the
reviewed?
greatest show ever made, or one of them.
Okay.
Did you say Lost?
Yes.
You want to talk about bad endings?
Oh, for fuck's
Hey,
sake,
I like
guys.
I'll
Guys.
toss my
Lost.
I'll toss my Christian revivalism ending towards your. Hey,
I love
look, it's
Lost,
Earth.
but you want to talk about
Uh.
bad endings? You talk about what the fuck is going on? I wasted how many years for this ending? Anyway, moving
Guys, thank you.
on. We'll agree to agree with what I said. Move on.
Shush.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm the only
Hey,
right
Nick,
one
do you want
here.
to talk about I Dream of Jeannie?
There you
No.
go. How about the
No.
bard? We totally need to
The
talk
Incredible
about the
World of
bard.
Horace Ford.
And if we're talking about I Dream of Genie, we can talk about Horace
Forest
Ford-ass.
Horde.
That's actually considered. People consider that the worst episode of the 4 seasons. Horace
I was
Ford.
actually looking at that and I was like, I don't really know. I was looking at those two. I was like, I really didn't like Horace Ford. I Dream of Jeannie
See,
was not good
the
either.
Bard
but-
and the I Dream of Genie are the ones that pissed me off the most this season. I think.
Really? I couldn't tell.
Oh,
Thinking that I
I
watched them with you. Holy shit.
was
Bard.
so
Oh, yeah,
I
that's
was
the
so
one with
distraught
Shakespeare.
from the Bard that I just stopped paying attention to the podcast.
Oh, he literally, the fact that he didn't shut it off at least 3 times. The holy crap.
Oh yeah, 3 times. I was gonna shut it off 4 times. What are you talking about, Triv?
Yeah.
Oddly
Remember-
enough, all of these are like within 2 or 3 of each other, and we're like,
Yeah.
I think it's worse than that one. And
And
they're
it
like,
still
that's the funny
hasn't
part.
as bad as Templeton.
Oh no, that is still the worst.
I
Trouble
would
Templeton
contest that
was-
one, but
Trouble Templeton.
That's
sucked.
crazy.
see, I can get behind Templeton because at least the premise was interesting to an extent. But I Dream of Genie is
The
like
premise
I don't
of
know what the
Jezebel, what the hell is the name of this thing for real? Jezebel. The premise of that was interesting, but yeah, it was not executed well. Trouble
No.
with Templeton was not executed. It was the worst executed.
I honestly I would put the Jungle, but I would make the Jungle the worst episode of the series so far. But I don't know. I think that's a
And what is
That
that,
was
one
like
step
one of those-
above?
That one was pretty bad.
Or is that
Jungle was
like
pretty bad.
two? Where does the jungle fall? Is
Jungle
that
was
like
118, then Static, then Trouble with Templeton.
okay?
Yeah, that one, the radio with
Yeah,
Cuba Gooding
static.
Jr. That was pretty bad too.
You guys were just mad at that episode because we took a month break off because I had to move for my 80th time of the year. So
Yeah, and that is one thing too. And I know we've discussed this, but season 3 was long because of the episodes, but it was also long because I mean I had a couple of breaks in there too because of stuff that happened. So, the fact
yeah,
that
but
this
you didn't take a
season-
month off because you had to move.
Well,
so.
because you had
I'd
other
like to
shit
point
going
out,
on.
I had no breaks.
Well, good for you, your ass. Aren't you special on a stick?
You know what that means? Jacob has
Something
no
on a stick.
life.
I'm what? Yeah, I have no life. I just
have
wait
no
down here in this
legs.
basement, staring at the screen, waiting for them to send the link.
Those ribs were just a picture of your imagination.
I got those off of Getty Images.
But we can talk about like the Bard and I Dream of Genie and the Incredible World of Horace Ford and
I mean, we
Clifford
could,
Bill and
or
stuff
we
like
could talk
that.
about Death Ship, Miniature, Printer's Devil.
Well, that's what I'm saying. But we could talk about like the good stuff that came out of this season. That I honestly, Alex, I think you swayed me pretty well on Miniature because I was probably going to go in a little bit more negative when I watched it, but the points that you made on that episode were actually pretty compelling. And I'm like, you know what? She has a point. Son of a bitch, she has a point. And
you know what? And it's hard to change Nick's mind. Believe me, I've tried.
I thought Miniature was good.
Yeah, it was solid.
Yeah,
I'm
but
shook. I had no idea.
but like that just shows you like sometimes you need more than yourself to like compare an episode because if it were just me doing this podcast by myself, I'd be having like the Monster Duo on Maple Street at number 1 and Vader's at number 120. So, but Perchance to Dream, Triv would have it at number 1, and
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean
anyway.
but I mean like Death Ship. Death Ship was an episode that once again Jack Klugman, an episode about a guy who give up the death. He can't just convince himself that he has to be in charge all the time. He can't just like finally accept fate and stuff like that. And it just became a really interesting like Passage of Lady Anne, really thought provoking episode, and I appreciate that season 4 at least tried and actually succeeded sometimes.
Do we
I don't
also
know.
agree that Death Ship is the best episode of this season? Trip.
Okay, so I
No.
really like Printer Devil for me, and I like Miniature is fantastic, but for me, I'd have to say Printer Devil is my top just because I really love that episode, and Burgess Meredith is just fantastic for me. The way
Fair
things
enough,
fall, it's
queen.
certainly not bad. Go ahead, Alex. I'm sorry.
Oh, I was saying fair enough, queen.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was trying to
Slay
be
Queen.
supportive. Slay.
Yay. I don't know. What can I say? I got a thing for Burgess Meredith, and a crooked cigar.
Get back, contender.
That's not true.
I feel like
Bring
for
that
me,
in.
it's like that and his performance in The Obsolete Man are like the two best.
Oh yeah.
And then Time Enough Elapsed and Mr. Dingle the Strong are kind of ones where I'm like, I don't like love the episodes, but I still like his I
He
still liked
elevates.
him in it.
Yeah, he elevates, but it is still a yeah.
I still think it's funny that considered one of the greatest episodes of Twilight Zone. I think we're all kind of like, it was good at the end, but like overall, it's like it's an interesting thing because most of the time when people go top 10, you see that even in Pace Magazine, which we quote very often, they're even like, oh, this is like a top 10 episode, and we're like, oh no, we're gonna put it number 22, or not number 22. Where's Time Enough at Last? It's like way down the list. Number 32. It's just like, it just shows you that when you put a critical eye to an episode, sometimes the better episodes can fall apart. Unlike like Eye of the Beholder, you know, Time Enough at Last was just not considered. It's below on Thursday We Leave for Home, if that wants to tell you anything. So
Yeah. I think too with Time Enough at Last, and it's been parodied so much that I think it does lose a little bit of its luster because it has gained that over the course of time. Like
right.
if we had a podcast back in 64 or 5, it probably would have been a different scenario because you don't have all that extra baggage attached to it.
Well, but that's the thing. Like, I don't know if you guys agree, but I think the Twilight Zone, when it works the way it does on stuff like Death Ship and Printer's Devil and Passage of Lady Anne, is it has a compelling story that runs compellingly through the whole entire episode, and doesn't always rely. I mean, Passage on the Lady Anne relies nothing on a surprise twisted of an ending. And that, I think that's the most impressive thing about what the Twilight Zone could do. We can talk about like 5 characters in search of an exit, or will the real Martian please stand up, or any of these episodes. They do have great twists, but they also have great stories. And I don't feel like Time Enough at Last ever had that. I'm not trying to harp on Time Enough at Last, but it's just like, you have to have a compelling story in order for me to be wanting to put these higher on the list. And I think Death Ship and Miniature and Printer's Devil and He's Alive and stuff like that had very compelling stories, and that's why they're in the top 50. So
If you notice that all the memorable episodes throughout the Twilight Zone that people like go on and on about, and the most popular ones, they're always the ones that have one of those last minute holy shit twists.
Mhm.
Like your Eye of the Beholder, what's the, you said, all those that have like the last minute,
Like
oh my
Serve
god,
Man.
it's a Serve
I
Man, yeah,
think,
exactly.
yeah,
The
Serve
Invaders,
Man.
all of those, they all
Mhm.
have that big twist in the end. And while you can have an episode that is thought provoking and has a solid episode and have that twist, there is something about, you can have a decent or episode that has a great twist, and it can kind of rewrite the history of what you just watched for the past 20 minutes and make it suddenly better. Like in your mind's eye. So all of a sudden you're like, oh yeah, that was a great episode. Like I did it for a long time, and I brought this up a bunch of times with what is it, Third from the Sun?
Mhm.
It's a
Mhm.
fantastic, like holy shit moment at the end. Right there at the very end, it's just like dun dun dun. And it's like, wow, that was awesome. And it really just made me think of, it elevated the episode like a lot for me. But then when I started actually thinking about the rest of the episode, I was like, not that it was bad. I was just kind of like, it's just kind of a run of the mill standard episode that had a fantastic ending. And I think that a lot of people, when they think about Twilight Zone, when they think about anything, but just here with the Twilight Zone, they tend to remember though. Those are the more memorable ones for them. So those are the ones that usually end in the top 10s and all that. But I do think that most people don't take 3 hours to talk about a 24-minute episode of a show with 3 to 4 people each week. So maybe they're not putting quite as much thought into it as we are. So in other words, our opinion's better.
Woo!
Well said, Jacob. Some people put Per Chance to
Especially
Dream in
that
the top
last
10.
minute
Some
twist
people,
I did, huh?
I mean, for instance, you like look at most people's top 10 and we go back to Pace Magazine. So Lonely, Per Chance to Dream, Hitchhiker, Invaders, Five
The
Characters in
Lonely's in
Search
their
of
top 10.
Yeah.
I
Nightmare
like
at
the Lonely. I
20,000
thought the
feet.
Lonely was good.
Well, yeah. I mean, the one you thought was
Yeah,
was
I
it
thought
the
it was the
Invaders?
Invaders. Yep.
Time Enough at Last, Monsters Do Maple Street, Eye Beholder. So it has a couple of kind of swerves, but for instance, they have Occurrence at Owl Creek Bridge at number 12. So
What's that one?
it's the one we talked about last week. It's the one that Alex was bringing up. The one that they
Oh,
bought that
season
was
five.
it was like a French
Okay.
film or whatever it was.
Mhm.
Oh yeah, okay. So we haven't seen that one yet. Gotcha.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. But with that said, like, is there any episodes that's not your favorite episode? Is there any episode that surprised you in terms of like you weren't expecting good out of it, but you got good out of it, or was there any episode that was disappointing that you expected to be a lot better,
Yes.
maybe based on cast and all that good stuff?
Yes.
Yes, thank you. What? No, would you like to elaborate?
Oh yeah, sure.
Elaborate.
Really like all of them, or at least the first half, because I was going into this thing thinking they were all going to be shit. But no, in all seriousness, I really enjoyed watching the first half of this season because it was kind of like I went into it with such low expectations. And the second episode is the one that really made me say, "Oh, is he's alive?" No, in his image. She talked about it a little bit ago. Not like the best episode ever, but not a bad episode. And I really liked how they took this fairly simple plot and stretched it out. But it didn't seem to me, it didn't feel stretched out. It felt like someone wanted to tell that part of the story and how we got the character building and stuff like that. I thought they did that really well. I was surprised by that. By the time we got to the end, I was like, that was a pretty simple damn story, but I feel like they gave it a lot more nuance and a lot more world and character building that just added to the entire thing and made it worth the 50-minute runtime. And I wasn't expecting that, especially that early on, the second episode. I thought the first episode, what was the first one? Was that the one with the ship? The
First
No,
episode
it was in his image. It was it was in his image actually,
it was
wasn't
in
it?
his image, yeah.
Yeah, it was the
Oh,
robot
so this is
one.
the first episode. Okay, so even more so. First episode of the season, I'm going into thinking this is going to be ass. And I was like, that wasn't bad. I enjoyed my time with it. So that was probably the most surprising of the whole entire season. That going into it, once again, a lot of that has to do with expectations. My expectations were extremely low. And then it coming out and being like, hey, it was pretty good. And then I remember for like the first 5 or 6 episodes, because I think the first handful of episodes weren't bad. The bad ones didn't come along until a little bit later. I think we got a bad one like around like 7 or something like that. I don't remember which one it is. We don't
Just
have like
Fell was number 8.
I think was there one before that we were kind of like, this is all right.
So it went in his
Mute.
image, 30 Fathom Grave,
was
Valley
good.
of the Shadow, He's Alive, Mute,
I think
Death Strip.
Mute was the first one, which I didn't hate Mute, but we like saw some cracks.
Yeah.
That we started to say. I think Nick, you disliked Mute quite a bit.
Yeah, I can't remember why, but I mean, to be fair, we've talked a lot of episodes, but yeah, I remember not liking
Well,
Mute.
I think it was
think-
because of the idea that the parents like raised her to be telepathic and she couldn't speak or hear, and she was kind of thrust into that situation of
Yeah, that's
like,
true.
Well,
That's probably true.
I thought, no, Mute I didn't think was awful, but admittedly, as we were talking about it, I was like, yeah, it's not as solid as everything that's come before, but that's like what, 5, 6, something
I
like that.
mean, after stuff like The Bard, Horace Ford, and I Dream of
It's
Genie,
episode
the
5.
Mute's like,
yeah, episode 5.
Yeah, so like we're like that first handful of episodes every week, I'd be like, all right, so next week's probably going to be bad. That's when the bad starts. Week was pretty good, and I was like, all right, well, I actually like this one, so next week's probably. You do that 5 times, and by the time you get to 5, you're like, you guys lied.
I didn't lie. It was Nick that said it.
Yeah, well,
Why do you keep blaming me, Triv? I mean, come
Because
on.
you're the one that kept saying, "Oh man, season 4, season 4, season
his
4."
I said Triv
it
said season
wasn't
4
just
is
him.
terrible.
It was like that's just the general consensus. So yeah, I mean, I kind of jokingly said all of them surprised me, and that obviously not all of them, but a great deal of them did surprise me just for the fact that they weren't ass. But I mean, that being said, I did actually enjoy as I look at this list and the ones I do remember, there were some of them that were actually really good. Like Passage on the Lady Anne, I thought was really good. And it was so unconventional. And it shouldn't like I look at this, if you explained it, if you described the episode to me, I'd be like, that sounds really boring, especially for 50 minutes long. But they did that great. Printer's Devil, Burgess Meredith was great in that. Miniature was really interesting, and Death Ship was really interesting in all the conversations it could own or open up with its ending. I thought was great. It really, I mean, there were some not just decent or okay episodes. There's some really, really good episodes this season, and that surprised me.
What about you, Alex?
Woohoo.
Oh, me. I'm here.
Don't worry, we didn't forget you. Don't worry. Don't worry.
Thanks. I'm like trying. It's hard to like remember a couple of them. I have yet to really revisit Valley of the Shadow was the one where I saw it on the list, and I had to like
Yeah.
remind myself. Like,
Yeah, to be fair, you
where
weren't
kinda
on
where
all
that-
our episodes, so I'm not like holding your feet to the fire on that one. But
Yeah.
Why don't you remind yourself again of what Valley of the Shadow is about? Which one? Was it?
oh yeah, I
I,
wonder why.
I remember, but why don't you remind yourself?
Valley of the Shadow.
So
hang
you
on,
want a
I've got it
reminder
here.
is what I'm hearing.
No, not at all. I of course remember it.
Mhm.
Valley of the
Yeah.
Shadow was where the guy goes into the town, and it's a
Mhm.
super peaceful town, and then
It's like
Well,
Wicker
yeah,
Man.
that's
his
okay. Yeah,
like
the
his
giant-
dog disappears into the
Yeah.
thing, and
Yeah, giant
remember that one.
laser that
That's
turns
absolutely.
into how they
Oh,
You remember
the
just like I did.
is it like
He's a news reporter.
yeah,
It's like the aliens gave him the technology, and they
right,
keep their way of life.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
He's a newspaper, right? Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and then he can't like escape the town or something because he knows of
They're
Yeah,
basically
like-
their own
he
utopia
knows about
type
the
of a
bees.
thing.
They had
yeah,
that
but it's
great
very
shot
and
where
they
his
don't
car
want
wrecked
their
into the
like
invisible wall.
innovations
Yep.
being like I guess revealed after
'Cause
he
the
finds
world's not
out, but then he
ready
ends
for
up escaping. I
Well,
guess
they
like
take
without
his-
his memory.
Yeah, they take
Yeah.
his memory,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
he
yeah.
leaves town with the dog.
He's like not the
Gotcha.
bees.
Mm-hmm.
Mm,
And there's
yeah.
really sarcastic kid.
There's no Percival Smithers, so
No.
No front butt, front
Nope.
name.
no.
Bummer. I'm trying to think of like episodes here that like I guess were that stood out to me in a way. I think that the one that stands out to me, at least like looking at the list, is He's Alive, but only because one of my like personal like one of the episodes that really stood out to me is being like, oh, this could be like a personal favorite. But I didn't like consider it at the time when I was like initially like watching and talking about the Twilight Zone was Death Has Revisited from season 3, I think.
Mhm.
And that one just really stood out to me just because of how it directly confronted kind of what happened at like concentration camps and like in Auschwitz, like that with that sort of whole situation. So to kind of see He's Alive take a creative spin on like portraying Hitler, which very much was this figure in World War, obviously within the World Wars, that I think there's still a lot of conversation to this day about
Oh yeah.
kind of what happened, but it was even more prevalent at the time. And I felt like I still think about like when I watched it for the first time, and I was truly taken aback by them actually really portraying him as this very much sort of like almost like devil on the protagonist's shoulder in a way. Well, arguably he was more of an antagonist, I guess, but like to have him silhouetted in the way that he was, I thought was really compelling. It worked really well. But then I was kind of bummed that they abandoned the silhouette
Yeah.
aspect of it towards the end, because I felt like having him just remain this, just the figure, just have it almost be like this almost subconscious thing potentially, at least from a creative perspective, I don't know. It just kind of bummed me out that they didn't like embrace and like continue that through the whole thing. Because I felt like towards the end is where I felt a little lost. Like I wasn't as like invested in it as I would have wanted to. I've yet to like really rewatch the episode, so I mean maybe my mind can change. But I just felt like the way Revisited took its approach, like comparatively between those two are kind of where it's like I actually liked how they broadly sort of addressed how this period of time was for a lot of people. Where hate was very much spread at the time, and I think, I think even with certain, current events that can continue to be the case of having like hate versus peace sort of thing. But
Yep.
I don't know. I think that one stands out in that way. And then what was oh yeah, I don't want to watch Horse Ford again. That was yeah,
You're not alone in that.
No.
well, at first I was like, okay, maybe I was just sort of like I, shoot it away like it was some little like fruit fly or whatever on like my food and being like, okay, I don't want anything to do. It's like go away or else I'll swat you. But I very much was like I guess going off of that analogy, I was like, I'm gonna find this fucking fly in my house and I'm gonna swat it so that way it doesn't invade my house. And that's how I felt about Horace Ford, where it's like I
So
felt
you would
like
have
that
been one of the
idea.
kids kicking Horace Ford's ass when he was a kid
You know,
in the alley. It's okay. It's okay. I would have too.
Agreed.
okay, but like I wouldn't have actually done it. It would have been a thought being like, man, this kid, this stupid Mickey Mouse watch, I
When you
swear to
saw the
God.
other kids whooping his ass, you would just be like, oh, and walked on by.
Be like, how about them apples, bitch?
Yep.
Anyway. I don't know. It's like that idea of the loop works with certain premises. Like when you think of, I don't know, I'm trying to think of something like Russian Doll, for example. Like when you think of, I watched like the first season when I was at USC and everything, and I remember being really intrigued by it because of the way of it looping, but still having a bit of uniqueness with each time you kind of looped around. And it definitely manipulated time and space in a way where it was like, oh, I actually like where it's going. But I felt like with Horace Ford, because of how it just felt so almost like redundant, that it just wasn't interesting. And I feel like if it could have been 30 minutes, maybe I could have been like, okay, this is passable at least as a Twilight Zone episode because of what we've seen before with how they've done, episodes in a similar way. But I just had like no investment really in Horace Ford. I didn't feel his world was so incredible. I feel like upon reflection, I do feel like almost titling it as like the nostalgic world of Horace Ford or something could have offered at least a little bit more substance, like what the episode is, because I feel like the world around him is so like against his own world, present or past, being incredible in a way. Maybe except his mother. Before he lost his job, but yeah. I don't know. It's just one of those episodes where I liked who they brought together in the cast, but the execution and the story of it was just pretty lackluster in my opinion.
What about you,
Anyway.
That is one thing with this season. There was a couple episodes that had some pretty big names considering, and I feel like there was a little bit more than previous seasons.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that also could be because of how long the series had been going on at a certain point, that it probably was one of those shows where, actors were asking their agents to see if there were opportunities to like audition for it.
Yeah, it happens.
Come on board. Yeah.
So
Yeah,
often when a series becomes popular. I mean, you look at
Mm-hmm.
the prime example is you look at like Seinfeld and Friends and Sopranos and any of these shows that one will garner. I mean, especially today with the landscape of television, but any show that will garner publicity for the person. I mean, like I
It
said,
just
you
seems like
look at
really fun to be a part of too.
yeah.
Absolutely. It's part of the even then and now, if you're part of something like that, you become part of the cultural zeitgeist
Mhm.
that property holds too. So,
Yeah, I
um,
mean, the interesting thing about like the fifth season is like when you start getting people like Richard Donner and Robert Keith and James Coburn, and I think James Coburn was already in a film episode. Lee Marvin, Jack Klugman.
mhm.
It becomes like a who's who of like '60s acting.
Oh,
So
100%.
Mhm.
In addition to that, like, I guess episodes for me, like, I had forgotten. I went in with wanting to give I Dream of Jeannie a little bit of leeway just because I hadn't seen it in so long, and I thought, looking back, I remembered liking it. Yeah, because there's always that thing about, and I like to think that like funny episodes for me are kind of like my bread and butter when it comes to a lot of Twilight Zone. I'm gonna most likely pick them above other stuff, but yeah, I Dream of Jeannie was just freaking awful. It's like the most basic of stories and just ugh. Like you take Julius Moomer, Horace Ford, and the guy from I Dream of Jeannie and put them in a room. They're gonna cause each other to eat themselves because they're just the worst of characters, you know? But then on the other end, like I say, Printer Devil has always been a fave, and it was cool to see that it was still good and that it was really such a solid episode, and to be able to look at it critically with you guys and confirm that I'm not crazy. And Jezebel for me, that was a hard rewatch because I went back and I wanted to make sure that I could prove that it wasn't like that it was as bad as I remember because it's been a long time since I've seen it. But yeah, I did leave myself kind of going, God, I remember being so pissed off by this, and I still don't like it, but it doesn't hold nearly the vitriol it would have the last time I watched it.
yeah, yeah. Actually, Jacob,
Yeah.
I hate to say it, but Errol Hamner Jr. is like 4 episodes in season 5, and 2 of them were terrible, and 2 of them were good. Actually, no, he does 5 episodes. Holy shit, he was like all over the fifth season. Like 5 episodes he wrote,
Really? This is before
and
the Waltons.
or 6 episodes. He wrote Black Letter Jackets, and he wrote Stopover in a Sleepy Town or whatever,
Hmm.
which I really like. Stopover in a Quiet Town, which I actually really like. Good guilty pleasure episode, but yeah, I'll say for me, I think the most surprising episode was the one I always enjoy is 30 Fathoms Grave, but that's just me. The one that surprised me on not a good scale was the Bard. I personally consider that like the worst episode of the series. We've talked about that already, even though I haven't edited the episode yet. That episode was just bad.
I really thought I
Um,
Dream of Jeannie would be worse, but I was
I did
proven
too.
wrong.
It was worse, yeah. But then this episode came along, right?
Oh
I think
my
the
god.
one that I really enjoyed was Death Ship. I think that's the one that kind of okay. I think that's the one that proved the fourth season could be something a lot better than I expected. And it was surprising. Like he's alive, made me think. Like like you said with Death Head Revisited. But yeah, Death Ship was just one of those episodes that like perfectly encapsulate what makes the Twilight Zone so special. And it's not even it's not even written by Sterling. It's written by Richard Matheson, but it has Rod Serling's idealisms all over, imprinted all over it with like the great characters, the great story, the interesting crazy twist, and just the kind of nature of what it's doing. And then on top of that, Passage on the Lady Anne was a surprise, was an episode that really kind of hit me in the feels. It didn't hit me in the feels as much as what was that episode that made me really sad? On Thursday we leave for
Nightmares
home.
of a Child.
Yeah, that was that just made me feel icky. It didn't hit me as hard as like on Thursday we leave for home, but I think it was for what it was doing and the fact that it didn't really have a twist. I think it was really surprising. So it's kind of where I land on the fourth season, or at least those four season episodes.
That was a
And
really
it's
feel good episode. And I mean, it's a ship of people going to die and some people that are stranded at sea.
Well, Jacob,
But
you
that,
say that, and I have to like push back on that again. Like, do they go and die, or do they go to an island? Like,
they
it's not
did.
they disappear, but I mean, this isn't like a Titanic
They
situation
leave
where Godzilla,
existence.
huh?
Listen, they could be going to Cabo for all we know. You
Yeah,
know,
they
they be
could be
living
going
their
to a
best
farm up
life.
north.
I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure death was on the horizon for them. But my point was, even though, well, regardless if they went to Cabo or they went to heaven, uh, I
Man, they
still
got
got,
attacked by Godzilla.
Yeah,
I found
there
it
you
to be
go.
kind of an uplifting episode,
Yeah, especially
unconventionally in the
Yeah.
end.
especially when they pulled the gun and said, get the fuck off the ship." It was
Okay, yeah, that was a little bit random, but you know,
no. I mean, that was like a great part of the episode. But yeah, I know what you're saying though. There's a lot of like,
we really like you. Get out.
yeah, get the fuck off our ship.
Get out,
But
get
no, it
out.
is like there's like is it Gladys Cooper who is the old woman? I think it was. She like that speech that she gives. I think I said it in the episode. I actually did it verbatim. Was a really impactful like piece of dialogue. It really was. It was something that really hits home. And like I said on Thursday we leave for home, the same thing. It's just like interesting stuff. It was impactful stuff, and I appreciate it just for that. So.
Well, and one thing too that we talked about, and I could be misremembering, like we talked about like there were a couple of episodes that didn't really have that traditional Twilight Zone twist. Or if it did, it was kind of like just a lame twist. Or it was so you get on one end of the spectrum, you've got like Passage and Lady Anne, which yes, there's a twist, but it's not like a traditional one. It's just a solid piece of media. And then on the other end, you've got something like The Incredible World of Horace Ford, or The Bard, where you have this incredible thing happen, and it's just kind of lame and stupid. It just kind of goes, yay, this thing happened. We're supposed to be all woo about it. So,
But it
anyway.
just sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or they take it,
This-
you've got like, William Shakespeare, and he's just like, yeah, bitch.
This episode is bad. It has ceased to be.
I thought it did. This season did a lot more like on Thursday we leave for home, where there's a twist, but it's kind of a twist you saw coming. But even though you see that twist coming of him being, not going and regretting instantly, they do it in such a way and execute it in a way to which it's still impactful. It's just executed really well. But yeah, it wasn't a surprise that he was gonna be like, "Fuck you, I'm not going." And as soon as they take off, he's like, "Wait, come back." Yep, you're screwed. But then, like, we have the conversation of, man, how much would that suck? And his performance and everything of why I did it and how I did it, and just how much it would suck to just know now, oh shit, I fucked up, and you're just stuck there alone the rest of your life. Just dry.
It was very hot there.
Yeah, the only thing that saves Cliffordville, by the way, is Julie Newmar.
Well, she saves everything.
Yeah, her and her horn. She's horny in that episode. Where's the horns? What else is there to talk about? I mean, is there anything like in this season that you guys want to talk about, just on the nature of like what it's trying to do, what it says, anything you guys want to bring up? Because I mean, like I said, it's a pretty short season, so there's only so much you can talk about. I mean,
It is
it
and
has
it
one.
isn't.
What's that?
I mean, runtime wise, it's the same as the other seasons.
Well, it is, but
Just
like
half the episodes.
yeah,
they're
but
further
right
along.
now we'd be halfway through the 5th season, so it's just like I guess it feels shorter in that way.
I mean, it's shorter as
even
far
though
as
we've
like
been doing it since
episodes.
January.
Actual amount of time we spent with the Twilight Zone, same. But yeah, I get what you're saying. It's
I
shorter.
can't believe we started this in January. We're already finished with the.
Yeah.
Usually we'd be taking us like 2 years to finish the season. So, I don't know. Anything else you guys want to bring up? Anything you want to talk about with the?
I think we should
the
rank
season?
it against the other seasons. Or I don't know. Before we do that, I guess, are there any, like, now that we're at the end, are there any episodes you guys, as far as our ranking goes, are there any placements you would change besides the Bard being at 18 or 115? I think we all, or Horse
think
Ford.
How
Alex
did you
would've-
read that wrong? Her Dream of Genie is 115. The Bard is 111.
I know what I'm saying. Besides changing the fact, putting the Bard at the bottom.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
You know
besides
what?
that
I was
change.
wrong. I'm sorry. Anyway,
That's okay.
Was gonna say to next point that I think it would have been fun to have like more hour-long episodes. Like,
Yeah.
but not necessarily like another season filled with 1 hour episodes. Like if they had some fun with, I guess, having 1 hour episodes on occasion in between like the 30-minute ones, kind of like how on like certain shows that I've seen before, where like particularly with like, trying to think of a good example, but I guess like when I've watched like the original DuckTales series, also during COVID, you can guess I watched a lot of TV during COVID. when I watched that episode, when I watched like those episodes across that series, I wasn't expecting for there to be like a multi-episode arc across up to like, I don't know, could have been like 3 to like 5 episodes sort of thing. So like even having something like that, or I'm trying to think, or in the Outer Limits too, like what I would consider like my favorite, oh, The Inheritors. The Inheritors was like a 2-parter that was across like they were like an hour each. And like I loved how they were able to, kind of execute the story that they had in there. So I think even like exploring what they could do with the 1 hour format, maybe even having 2 parts like they did with the Outer Limits, or just like, I don't know, maybe having like if you had like a 30 something episode season, having at least
Well,
like 3 maybe be like an hour and then kind of sandwiched in between
Or
30-minute
two
episodes.
24-minute eepisodes that are linked together, like to be continued next
Yeah,
week.
or like a
Yeah.
link
Make an hour.
thing too would be fun.
Yeah, like they did with the later series where they like the 80s, and I think this 80s and 2000s did like 2 episodes per, or 2 segments per episode.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
you'll see it. Actually, no, I'm wrong. I think the 80s one did 3 episodes. I think they were like a little bit shorter a piece, but I'll tell you I'll tell you my honest opinion. I actually agree with you. I think more episodes for the 4th season would have actually been nice if it weren't for the jerk ass executives who didn't know what they had. I think
Did
the
they
biggest
ever?
well, that's true. But I think honestly the biggest miscalculation for the Twilight Zone wasn't Rod Serling and his vision. It was the fact that we have a exec from Paramount who came in and said, I don't understand this, so we're not going to continue this. And somehow Ross only got 5 seasons out of it, but it just shows you that, and Ross only even says this in his like later when he like confesses and talks about his views of TV, that true art form, true art in general will never be appreciated. You look at like Pablo Picasso or something like that, is never truly appreciated till long after they're gone and long after these execs basically get the boot. And it's one of the biggest crimes that the Twilight Zone ever had against it, was being ahead of its time, being relevant to any part of history, and having execs that just didn't know what they had on their hands. And I think I think at some point, I honestly truly think at some point Ross Serling would have stepped this, if this series had kept going for many years. I think Ross Serling would have stepped aside, continued as producer just to make sure everything runs properly. But I think in the end, as we'll see in the 5th season, there are multitudes of episodes that Ross Serling isn't even a part of, who he literally stepped aside and just kind of let people write it. And it suffered. A lot of the episodes in the 5th season will suffer because of that. And it's a shame. What's that?
Now they're telling me season 5's terrible.
No, I'm just saying there are several episodes of the season that are considered like several episodes at the bottom of the list. I'm just saying in general, I'm just saying like the 4th season shows that even though you have some asshole jerk ass pieces of shit executives up in the top, and this is for
really
you can
feel.
say this for any. I mean, look at Netflix. Netflix is notorious, and Max is notorious for canceling series for no particular reason. But you can look at the Twilight Zone as probably one of the most influential TV shows of all time, and it was still problematic when it came to its production of it. It's just like it baffles me that, I mean, it's nice that it got 5 seasons, but it baffles me that it got the shaft like it did. It literally got the full width of the shaft up its ass because of some exec.
Width of the shaft.
Well, that's in essence what happened to
That
it. I think Ross Sterling was like, we're going to do a 5th season and we'll be done. And, thank God he did Night Gallery, because I heard that's a pretty good series. So I don't know.
Yep.
That's where I stand. That's what I see about the 4th
graphically
season.
descriptive.
But I think that's
I
what
try.
makes like the legacy of the Twilight Zone so gratifying. And I guess part of where I come from with that perspective is that the Twilight Zone was always a series that I was like kind of familiar with, as we kind of talked about it being like just like this cult, like very much like prevalent in popular culture. But I think when it came to just when you like watch the episode, like when you like watch an episode or two, and then even with all of the media that you could arguably be saturated with, can decide to be like, oh, this actually looks really interesting. Like I want to see what kinds of stories they were making at the time that you can also enjoy today.
Yeah.
At least that was my perspective on it. You know,
Yeah.
I was
I agree.
convinced to be able to watch it just because I had seen a couple in the past and I was like, oh, I'm like super curious about like how well this show is. And it's like, I consider it like one of my favorite TV series now whenever people ask. And that's not something that I feel potentially like could have been something that I would have said, because I think people, I guess, not to be like people around my age, but I think so much of, I guess, social and digital media, you know, a lot of it, you know, sort of excels in even speaking about media or engaging with media that's just coming out, or just being like, oh, what's trendy or what's new or like what's coming out. But I think when it comes to watching something that's older, at least for someone in, I guess, my position, to come away with it and be like, oh, like I actually am really glad I watched this arguably even over stuff that's coming out now that may or may not
Yeah.
be popular
Yeah.
or good. I think that's the
I'll-
kind of legacy that I hope the Twilight Zone leaves with people, or regardless
Mhm.
of, you know, if you're like listening to the podcast or watching, you know, these deep dives of people talking about it. I mean, I haven't like watched the videos per se, but it's like I've seen quite a few videos, you know, even when I try to search up a given episode, of people just talking about it and like enjoying it or having their own thoughts about it outside of just even this podcast existing, just because, you know, I think we
Well,
enjoy it so much. And I think just having at least like almost
right.
like a little fandom cultivated from this that has grown, even with a show that is black and white and is anthology kind of thing. Like there are certain factors that even work against it now that, you know, were different from sort of the factors that you mentioned that worked against it then. But I mean, the show has all persisted in a way that I think has allowed it to be, I don't know, quite timeless in my opinion.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
there.
Thanks for coming to my TED Talk.
Well, no. The funny thing about the Twilight Zone is pretty prevalent in a lot of famous shows, like we'll say Firefly, and I don't know how popular the Sarah
Mhm.
Connor Chronicles are, but there are series that transcend. For instance, you'll have the Big Bang Theory go 12 seasons, but you'll only have Firefly go one season, and you
Mhm.
remember. I mean, Big Bang Theory is a pretty popular show, but you remember the Firefly. I mean, people still will not shut up about Firefly 20
Mhm.
plus years later, but you know, a lot of people don't talk about Big Bang Theory unless they release a new show. The same thing with Twilight Zone. You know,
Mhm.
you still have I Dream of Jeannie, you still have Mr. Ed, you still have Get Smart, you still have Star Trek. Star Trek, you know, only ran 3 seasons. You have all these shows, but I think
Dobie Gillis.
what's that?
Dobie Gillis.
Batman
Was
66.
Well,
Remember
no,
who
I'm
Dobie
just
Gillis
saying,
is?
but like
Dobie. I watched a lot of Nick at Night when I was a kid.
that, I don't know that show though.
Same.
That kind of sucks.
Yeah,
But the
Maynard.
Twilight, what's that? But the Twilight Zone is one that like transcends it all, and I think everybody you see like
It
for
even
instance,
transcends its reboots too,
Yeah.
which
this
I
is
think is an
true.
interesting conversation.
Who was it that I was watching? God, who was it? Somebody I was watching the Beach Boys, and Janelle Monáe was on there as a Beach Boys documentary. And I looked up because I didn't know Janelle Monáe was a huge Beach Boys fan, and also she's apparently a huge Twilight Zone nerd. And it's just stuff like that. It's just like people that you least expect to be Twilight Zone fans are the ones
Mhm.
that transcend the show. You don't get that a lot. I mean, yeah, you'll have your stands for other stuff, but I think Twilight Zone, as we see even in the fourth season, found ways to invigorate a series that was being run to the ground by people who literally just care about show numbers and don't give a shit about the art process, which is what he said Rod Sterling talked about at nauseum in his TED Talks and stuff like
Yeah.
that. So
Well,
And the
don't you
bar.
think too, to some extent, that like the mark of a good show, or the mark of a, I don't know, quality production, is the ability to put out stuff that people don't know the drama behind the scenes to some extent.
oh yeah, of course. I mean, Lost, a good example. Lost and Chuck, perfect examples of
Oh,
series
I
that
feel bad for
had
Chuck.
major. What's that?
I feel bad for Chuck. That show got
Well,
shafted.
that and Community had major issues behind the
Scrubs.
scenes. Scrubs, yeah, like some of the best shows of all time.
Game of Thrones
Roseanne,
too.
Yeah.
Game of Thrones, yeah.
Pushing Daisies was fantastic, but yeah, it was too
I
quirky.
just I feel
Ren and
sad for that.
Stimpy.
Yeah.
Ren and Stimpy.
Mhm.
Well, at least they brought actually Jacob. I don't know if did you watch the leaked episodes that they put out.
Leaked episode.
Yeah, the
The
new
banned one
series.
from way back in the day?
No. There's a new series of Ren and Stimpy that it's called the leaked episode, but I don't know if it was something that was put out purposely. But there's a new episode of Ren and Stimpy that came out this year.
Yeah, but John K's not part of it, right?
Is he in jail or some shit?
No, he's free. I mean, he's more or less canceled.
Oh,
Say what you will
I
about the
don't.
guy. He made that show what it was.
No,
I
I
mean,
know,
he
but
may have
he's
been
supposed to be like a scumbag from what I hear.
Oh, he was an asshole. He demanded 100% perfection upon perfection, and he was a total asshole.
Jacob, he was a animator on a Treehouse of Horror episode.
Oh God.
No, but yeah, no. It's that's what I think that's what the fourth season in the end game ultimately represents, is a series that and a season that is unrepresented or is not considered. I mean, as you said with Netflix, they don't even have the fourth season. It's a season that nobody appreciates until you actually sit down and watch it from a critical point of view. And I think more people should watch it. I think they're good and bad of all seasons, and I think especially this season, like half of the episodes are not great, but there is diamonds in the rough, and there's episodes that are actually truly remarkable.
Sorry, go ahead. I thought you were done.
No, I'm just saying they're the episodes that are truly remarkable.
I don't think that there was any more, percentage wise, and there's obviously less episodes this season, but percentage wise, I don't feel like there's any more bad episodes this season or bad percentage of the season than the other seasons. I mean, there's bad, but there's bad every season. I mean, well, season 1's pretty great. Season 2 is pretty good too. Let's compare it to season 3. I don't.
Would you say, Jake? Would you say that because you look at the bad of this season, you've got I Dream of Jeannie, Horace Ford, The Bard,
it's real
Jess
bad.
Bell. If you want to toss that in there, but you have what is arguably 3 of the worst considered episodes, whether you're talking like IMDb rankings or Paster. Generally speaking, I think that's kind of a bottom of the barrel thing. Would you like the fact that it has those 3? Do you think that people maybe look at this because it's worse, or they look at this and assume it's worse?
I think it's a culmination of things. I think that yes, since you have the bad episodes are real bad. I mean, it's only a handful of them, yeah, but there's not that many. It's only 18 episodes, but there is a handful of bad episodes that are real bad, and that doesn't help. The fact that they're hour long and everybody knows that's it's longer. People are automatically going to think, people don't look at things like that and go, oh, it's an hour long. Great. It's going to be, everybody always is skeptical of that, even back then.
Yeah.
Longer now? Why? Is it going to be
well,
more
it was
boring?
different than what it was. Why is it not a half hour?
And obviously, in retrospect, we look back and it only did it for this season and then it went back. So that automatically tells people, oh, it wasn't a good thing. It didn't work. So that's a hit against it. Also, even though I did like a fair amount of I liked more of the episodes than I didn't like this season. And there are some really good episodes. There's not any of those holy shit like Eye of the Beholder episodes. There's not like if you look at, I'm on IMDb right now. I just had it pulled up so I could glance at an episode and remember it. And every other season you see like at least once top rated Eye of the Beholder. A couple of, it says top rated like 3 or 4 times in season whatever that is 2. But you go over to season 4, not one single one of them says top rated. And I would agree with that. I think I really liked some of them, but I wouldn't say any of them are like quintessential Twilight Zone. They're not bad. I think they're good and they're definitely worth watching. And the season as a whole is worth watching, but there's not that wow, that was life changing. Well, that defines the series, if you will. None of those. Death Ship comes close, but close only counts in horseshoes and hand grenades.
That's right.
Which this is neither of. And I think that is against it. So it doesn't have that bright shining star that really like elevates the season. The bad is really bad. You have the whole stigma of being an hour long, that not working, going back. And I think all of that combined to people just saying, yeah, it's not a good season.
Agreed.
Miniature's my bright star among the series, but that's my personal opinion.
And Miniature's really good too. Like that's another one. I think that these are all really good episodes, like borderline great episodes. But just we have to look at the consciousness across the board is most people, I think that there's people out there that would say, you'll probably find more people than not that'll say, oh yeah, there's a few good episodes, but overall the season sucks. But I don't think any of them are like, man, season sucks, but there's that one episode that's just amazing, and you just don't get that. And I think every other season has an amazing episode in it, at least one amazing. Like in our top 10, I think is from every single season, except for, and even our list. None of these landed in the top 10. They came close, but they didn't land. So I think it's a perception thing, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I would agree. It's
Fuck your perceptions. Watch this season.
Damn it. Watch this season.
Janet.
Damn it. Janet. But other than that, there anything else you guys want to talk about before we head out? Anything else you want to bring up? Any questions, comments, concerns, hunger pains?
I think that we ranked Valley of the Shadow too high.
But I think you liked that episode.
I do like it. And I don't think it
Listen.
would have gone down much. Either we ranked it too high or we ranked In His Image, No Time Like the Past, and 30 Fathom Grave too low. They're all within 10 spots of each other. I just feel like those three were better than Valley of the Shadow. I gotta say something here. I liked Parallel too. I thought Parallel was great.
Parallel was pretty good.
I feel like Parallel should be higher than 72.
Eh,
I didn't necessarily think it's better than 30 Fathom Grave, which is the next one in line. I liked Parallel. It just, when I say, oh yeah, Parallel, oh, it's 72.
okay, but like it was at 69 when I came on.
Perfect.
So like
Yeah,
it did
It's
go
your
down a
fault.
little bit.
It's your fault.
Nuh-uh.
Oh,
I
man.
wasn't around for the episodes above that.
Yeah,
Not for the ones you mentioned.
And I know 72 is still on the overall, right? Yeah, it's on the up end of things, but I don't know. I thought the Parallel had some interesting
Parallels.
story beats, and yeah,
How about you, Triv and Alex? Do you guys have anything else?
I'll keep talking.
Jezebel sucks.
Oh, now it sucks. At first it was okay. Now it sucks.
It wasn't as bad as I thought it was, but it's still not a good episode.
I think had Triv not been there for like 3 seasons leading up to this, talking about how, and honestly, it's Nick. Nick would say it, and she would just kind of like, oh yeah. But Nick was the one that brought it up all the time. I will say that. But if I hadn't heard about how Jezebel was so awful, or Jezebel.
Well, it's my personal
awful.
opinion. It was my whatever movie.
Well, I mean,
Whatever
I'd like
episode.
every episode it came up, and I was like, I'm really looking forward
Well,
to this one. How bad it's gonna be. So then when I watched it, I was like, I mean, it wasn't good, but I mean, we've been talking about it for 3 seasons now. I don't think it was that bad.
I have to talk about something.
But had I not heard all that, I probably would have been like, yeah, this.
See, now we got to talk about Black Leather Jackets and the Bewitching Pool.
I've heard the
Oh,
Bewitching
brother.
Pool or Bewitching Pool is the new Jezebel. Because that one
That's
came up
gonna
a
be-
few times before I saw Jezebel too. But now, since that one, Jezebel's gone, now it's I hear about
Just
the Bewitching
you
Pool.
wait.
It's
Just
the very last
you wait.
See, I'll have to admit, when I first watched
We're
that
gonna-
episode,
that's a
I
whole
remember liking
conversation.
it. I don't remember hating it, but
It's
this-
a voice, I think, that does it for me. It's a god awful ADR on the little girl.
I remember
just-
disliking it quite a bit.
yeah, I just remember the kids disappear at the end or some shit. I don't remember. I know it's a weird episode,
The
but
last episode of the series too.
Think
I'm gonna
of
have to
like
say I love
okay,
it
I think
regardless.
the best way to like I guess for me to like address what the Bewitching Pool is without spoiling it, think of like Twilight Zone's own interpretation of like Hansel and Gretel. And that potentially is the witch.
I could see
Bewitching
that.
Pool. At least that's the way I like compared it in my head.
I
But
mean, that could be cool.
oh, by the way, Jacob. By the way, Jacob, those are both written by Earl Hamner Jr. So
So they take place in Virginia. The
I
mountain
don't think
people.
so. Actually, I think Black Leather Jacket's supposed to be like a West Side Story with, and then sometimes they come back or whatever. The Stephen King story.
I
Remember
thought it
that
was
movie?
almost like Greasers from space.
Is that
Greasers
what
from
it is?
Space?
I think
I am
so.
intrigued.
Well,
every time-
Greasers from space.
at least I don't know. I could be very
Space.
wrong about the premise of it, but it's like anytime I see the leather jackets like that, I'm like, oh, it's just the Twilight Zone being like, ooh, greasers.
I mean, do you think they're friends with Jews in space?
Probably.
Jews in space.
That means they're probably friends with Mel Brooks in that case.
Woohoo!
Oh, Jesus.
As long as it's OG Mel Brooks and not History of the World Part 2 Mel Brooks, because fuck that guy.
This
I mean,
makes
at
me
least he made
so
something, I guess.
interested about season 5. Like I'm very curious to see what this list unfolds to being at the very end.
Yeah, I
Well,
was just gonna
better.
ask that.
Yeah.
Will it be
Well, I'll
better
tell
than History
you-
of the World Part
Just
2?
with the episodes coming up, I'm like, because I don't know. It's one of those things where it's like, I guess if you watch sports, I don't watch sports, but if you watch a
I don't
sport
either.
and you have opposing teams, and it's like, and they're like, it can be anybody's game. And I just feel that way with season 5, where I'm like, literally this list can go anywhere from here. And I have no fucking idea, except for like Owl Creek Bridge to me. Like that's the only one where I feel very confident in it being in the very top. Because it's like, because she's that bitch. You know, she, but
Nightmare at 20,000
I'd
Feet.
say I
season
don't know
5.
about the rest. Because I don't know. Because even ones that I think, because there's a couple of like classic episodes in season 5. And there's also some episodes in here that aren't great. So truly, this list is going to be all over the place. If I were
It's
to
already all
Well,
over the place.
I know, but it's like, get ready.
I
I'm
can tell you
honestly
right
worried
now,
that-
you guys are going to be much smaller in the video when the list finally finishes.
Oh, definitely.
You guys are already small enough as it is, but it's going to be
No,
mighty
what you might
small
have
when
to
it's done.
do, what you might have to do is just have like a certain image, like have us on one half and then the list on the other half, and then just fade in and out
Yeah.
between the lists.
Or
That's
we
actually
could
a
get
good
just
idea.
background and like have like somebody do an artistic rendition of us, and it could be like in the style of the Star Wars: A New Hope cover.
There you go.
One of us could be like one of us grabbing a leg. The other
I'm not
one-
grabbing anybody's leg.
Wait, which
Sure.
person will be the gambling machine from the Fever? Which will
Fifth.
be
I'll do that.
the man jumping out the
I
window?
think I
2
like
feet
the
window?
fever I think I like the fever more than you guys do.
I like
Yeah, I
talking
would
about
say
the
so.
Fever.
It's just
Yeah.
it
I didn't like watching it.
It definitely is. It's got the goofiness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No?
I enjoy
It's
the
so bad
goofiness.
it's good,
Yeah.
but not good enough to rank any higher on the list.
Right, no, I agree.
Mhm.
Like, but it is. I mean, that one's fun to talk about because
Yeah.
it was so.
It's a weird episode.
What the fuck?
Mm.
At least it wasn't boring.
True.
That's you know,
Yeah,
you
it
got a
was
point.
definitely not
Wow.
the Bard or Incredible World of Horace Ford. I'll give it.
You
that
remember
much.
when?
We don't have to talk about those anymore.
Do you guys remember when? What is the one that was our worst for the long time? The guy who could change his face.
Oh, four people in search or
No,
4 of us
four
are
of us are
dying.
dying.
4 of us are dying. Remember when that was the worst one? That was our most hated episode.
And
I look
now
back at
it's
that now and I'm like,
110.
it ain't that bad.
That's
No.
wild to think about.
Actually, the 16mm Shrine was the worst episode for a little while.
Yep.
Yeah. I just
I think
like
there was
Oh,
some
yeah,
contention there
I
between you
didn't
two
I
when I
forgot
came
to
on.
tell you guys, but I decided to like rewatch like the entirety of the series.
Nice.
And I'm on episode 5 as of this video. Damn, 60mm Shrine is not good.
Yeah, but like after watching season 4, like World of Horrors 4 and stuff like that, I'm sure it's like a masterpiece.
Oh yeah. I mean,
it's a lesser Sunset Boulevard.
oh for sure. For
Let me
sure.
know when you get to episode 9.
But it's like, I don't know. I just, it's one of those episodes where you're like, yep, this was an episode.
Yep.
It was definitely an
I
episode.
get why it's low. I was like, all right, fair enough.
Yeah, like when you go back and watch like the very first episode, you realize how simple that episode truly is.
Yeah.
It's something, but all
It's
right.
like toast.
Yeah, milk
Remember my
toast.
toast analogy?
Yeah, exactly.
It's just white toast.
But with that said, we'll close out the 4th season from there. Once again, a pretty good
Do you need to do
season
the
for-
closing narration?
in a land, season 4. Actually, I should come up with the closing narration for season 5. I should have done that. Why didn't you remind me of that before, Jacob? I could have
You
done
should
that. I
have
could have
like a
written out a closing
speech.
narration.
No speeches tonight, please.
No, I meant like no for season
Speech.
5, Triv. I swear. But like but Nick should have a speech.
Number one,
For
part
wrapping up.
A. Number one, The Man in the Window. The Man in the Window was a great TV
Okay,
series.
okay.
If it part 2.2. Actually, that's my favorite joke in back to school when the teacher makes Rodney Dangerfield do like 18 different parts. Anyways, so that'll wrap up season 4. Like I said, pretty decent season for what it's worth.
Yeah.
And with that said, we're heading into the final season of the Twilight Zone.
Are we gonna rank it? We didn't rank it.
Okay,
Don't we
sure,
usually
let's-
rank the seasons? I don't know. We've only done this 3 times.
Yeah, so I
It's been a
guess where
while.
do you want to rank it?
Like, what is our ranking for the seasons thus far?
I don't fucking remember.
Showrunner.
No, we didn't. Remember that was like 18
I would
episodes ago.
assume 1, 2, 3.
Can somebody pull up last
One,
year's
two,
end of season 3?
Um,
No, I think it
1,
was
2, 3,
I think it was
4.
1,
How's
2,
it?
3.
Did
Pretty
you
sure it
actually
was
have
1, 2, 3.
like wait, did you have a visual of like what the ranking was?
No, I think we just did it off kilter, offhandedly.
I do think
Yeah,
it was 1, 2, 3.
we sure
though.
did.
That would be my thought on it.
That's pretty funny.
Well, I think I'm about to throw a monkey wrench at this.
Oh
bitch.
God, no.
Fine.
Oh
What is
my
your ranking,
God.
Jacob?
What is you guys' rankings?
I think
1,
you
2,
should
3,
go
4.
first.
Yeah, you go
Ladies
first. No, oldest goes first.
You
Oh shit. That's not cool. Well, I don't know, man, because like just going on feeling, if you said, hey, gun to your head, what's your ranking of 1 through 4 or Twilight Zone? I'd probably say 1, 2, 4, 3. But then I like I pull up 3 and I look at all the episodes and see it has a lot more opportunity because it has twice as many episodes to have good. And there are some like bangers here. There's some good stuff here. Well, that was not great, but The Shelter, that was a great one. And you got like The Grave was good. It's a Good Life. I have a real hard time. This is my fear for next season with Nightmare at 20,000 Feet. I have a hard time disassociating It's a Good Life from the segment from the movie. Because that's like when I think of that story, that's what I think of. So the whole time we were doing that episode, I remember I kept thinking about the movie. I mean, I don't get them confused, but that's just, it's so deeply ingrained in me that I couldn't pull myself away. And quite honestly, it's top rated on here, but really, It's a Good Life was not a great episode. It was okay. I think it was the bones of a good episode, and they took it with the movie and did it much better. But yeah, I think we said something along those lines too when we rated it. Like it's not
Same
as
with Kick
great
the
as a lot of
Can.
people say. Yeah, Kick the Can I didn't care for either, but I don't even care for the version of the movie that much. But Death's Head Revisited, you got 5 characters in search of episodes. You got a lot of really solid episodes, but you also have The Passerby,
Hey,
The Mirror. I know you guys like that one. Still Valley, The Jungle. So you got some shit here too. Quality of Mercy. I actually didn't think that one was bad, but Nick, I know you didn't like that one. And they're just one more pallbearer. There's some bad episodes in season 3. So I'm really like conflicted here because there's some great ones too. To Serve Man is there, all that. I want to say 4 is better than 3, but man, I'm having a real hard time with that because there are a lot of great episodes here, but I just don't remember having a great time with season 3. So yeah, convince
do
me.
you want to
either
know my
way.
ranking?
Is anybody else on
gonna
my
throw
side
you
here?
off?
Go for
Mine's
it.
gonna throw you
2,
off,
4,
Jacob.
3, 1. That's your ranking.
No, that's not my ranking. Mine is 1, 3, 4, 2.
What? Wait. 1, 3, 4, 2.
Oh my
Oh
God.
my god.
Let's go back. Let me look at 2.
Because like, okay, there are like there are definitely some few episodes from season 2 where I'm like, oh yeah, this is really fucking good. Like this is like exceptional Twilight Zone. But I just feel when I
bad ones, too.
reflect on the seasons all together, I don't find season 2 as memorable as the other 3.
I mean,
Yeah,
For
you
me
do got some crap.
personally.
You do got some crappy episodes. You got Dust back there, The Invaders,
Mhm.
Static, Mr. Dingle the Strong, Invaders,
Well,
King
the
9 will not
VHS
Mind in the
return.
episode.
You have the
Matter.
video camera ones, which
Yeah,
like I
video
only really
VHS
liked
ones.
one out of like the 6.
Night of the Meek was pretty
they
good.
made. Night of the
Yeah.
Meek was pretty. Yeah, Night of the Meek too. Night of the Meek and 22 were like
But
forgot that
yeah,
was
clearly the
also
worst
video camera
episode of the
event.
second season was The Invaders. But yeah, that was
Yeah,
about
nobody
it.
laughed at that.
Just the way you
They're all
looked,
gonna
I was
laugh
like,
at you.
oh, brother, here we go.
I wanted to see how many times I could say that before Jacob's like, shut the fuck up.
I don't have to say that. Whoever's listening to this will say that. They'll cut it off. We just lost a viewer. We lost all the viewers.
no.
It doesn't surprise me. Triv, did you rank it?
Yeah. Definitely 1, 2, and then I'd probably tie 3 and 4, roughly.
Yeah, I would 3, 1, 2, 4.
Oh my god.
Damn.
What'd you say? 3,
He
1,
said
2,
3,
4?
1, 2, 4.
Yeah.
You thought 3 was the best?
Yeah. I think it has some pretty banger episodes.
It does. I still think 1 overall, just quality standpoint, like 1 had the most back-to-back quality in my opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And out the gate, like Sterling kind of went like a freaking bullet.
I know it's kind of a cop-out, but I have to kind of agree with Triv where I say 1, 2, 4, and 3 are tied because I have a real hard time. Like I said, that feeling in me says I like 4 more than 3, but then I start scrolling through 3 and I was like, oh man, that's a good one. That's a good one. That's a good one. That's a bad one. That's a bad one. That's a bad one. It's so divided. And then all the other ones are just kind of meh. I think that's what does it in with 3 for me is there's so much meh that I can't really say they're bad, but I can't say they're good. They're just kind of meh. And that wears on you when you have because season 3 would like put a bunch of those episodes back to back to back. So you'd go like 3 or 4 episodes straight of just like meh, 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 meh. And like that gets grueling. But it was also coming off of season 2, which I thought was pretty good. So it's like I felt like the magic was waning a bit. Yeah, I'm gonna say 3 and 4 are tied. But if I just had to pick, I had to be honest, I'd probably say if I had to put them in an order, I'm gonna be basic as shit and say it would be 1, 2, 3, 4. But I still think 4 was good.
We can't hear you.
My name is Nick, and I think The Invaders is the best
No,
episode ever made.
I've changed my rankings 2, 3, 1, 4. I'm looking at season 2. It's good.
Season 2 was
1,
good,
4.
but it started out a
Interesting.
little shaky because I feel like they didn't have as much time to develop them as they did season 1
Oh, they totally didn't.
because they like it was a smash
Yeah,
hit.
you
like,
got
more.
like To Serve Man, or is it season 3?
Starman is season 3.
I'm looking at like the wrong
You
list.
know what else season 3 had? Hey,
Season
Jacob,
5.
it's a piano in.
The house.
Anyways, with that said, we're gonna close out season 4 at this point
Oh
now.
my god.
Before Jacob has an aneurysm.
Yeah, my lung capacity is not good today. I
It's
was doing a lot of
okay.
outside work today.
I didn't.
Yeah.
I don't have a lot of enthusiasm either, so I apologize. Next week I'll
True.
get
The
better
piano
with the piano.
and
The house.
Oh my god, her mic broke. Anyways, that's gonna wrap up season 4 and also wrap up the hour-long episodes of the Twilight Zone. Next week, we're actually going to head back into a 30-minute segments of episodes for the last season of the Twilight Zone, which is 36 episodes. So we're 36 episodes from completing this series, which is kind of sad
Crazy.
and crazy to think about.
I
Yeah, it's
think
crazy.
I still advocate for catching back up with the movie because we missed this year's.
That's a
movie segment.
Christmas thing. We're waiting till Christmas.
I thought you said Thanksgiving.
But the thing
Okay,
is,
we'll do it.
Because there
I
was
just
like some
wanted-
kind of catch up or
here's
whatever.
the problem: we have to catch up because the movie has how many more segments? It's got,
Got 4 segments total.
and we've done
Mhm.
one,
Yeah,
two-
but we're
one or
not
two.
stopping with the original Twilight Zone. Remember, we're going into the 80s and
I know that, but I mean,
2000s.
fine.
And
Wait,
eventually,
you
we're
actually
gonna
are?
do the.
I just want a
What's
reason
that?
to watch the movie.
Wait, really? You're
We're
going
going to
into
the
the
80s.
other Twilight Zone
Yeah, of
series?
course.
90,
We're doing the
80s.
Twilight Zone. We're the
2000,
fifth dimension of Twilight Zone podcast.
and then we're
We
gonna
don't stop
end
at
with
that. We don't stop
Wow.
wrestling.
By the time we get to the Jordan Peele
That's
ones, there's gonna
news
be
to
another
me.
reboot.
Oh, I thought you.
Yeah,
I
no
thought we.
doubt.
Oh, I thought we talked. No.
I didn't
I
know
can.
this.
I honestly.
And we're doing
I
Tales from the
contend.
Crypt.
Yeah, we'll change ourselves to it. I can tell for the Crypt podcast. No, I contend that.
Boys and ghouls.
I actually contend that the 80s Twilight Zone has one of the best episodes of the Twilight Zone period, like in my personal opinion.
I
What's it
remember
called?
liking the 80s Twilight Zone.
See, and
Yeah.
I'm pretty much a
Wait,
Twilight.
Nick, what's
and
it
a-
called?
It's
Twilight
called Grandma. It has I think it has the kid from Never Ending Story. Basically, it's one of
Ryu?
these. No, the kid read the book, Robert. Anyways, but he he is tasked to take care of his grandmother because I think his mother has to go to work or go to the store, and his grandma he is insistent that his grandmother is possessed by the devil.
Weren't the
It's a
80s one more horror focused?
They were
yeah,
more
it
horror
is.
focused.
Yeah, because
But
that's I
it's a
think that's where a
terrifying.
lot of that comes from.
This kid has like red eyes. Oh, it's
Yeah,
based
it's
on
no,
a
it's a
Stephen King story.
right. It's a horror. I
Oh.
mean, it straight up terrified me as a kid. Like it's up there with one of my favorite episodes of television with like Yellow from Tales from the Crypt, which
Mm.
had Kirk Douglas and his grandson in it. Is a World War I episode. So I don't know if you
I
remember
like
that,
the Arnold
Jacob.
Schwarzenegger directed episode.
They're all supposed to be. Tom Hanks' one episode is supposed to be good.
No. Schwarzenegger made one with the what is that guy's name? He's the bodybuilder. He used to work out with him. And he's the
Fredno?
old man. Remember the old man from he was in like anything that had an old man in it back in the 80s.
But no, I mean the first
Yeah.
season of Tales from the Crypt is directed by Walter Hill, Zemeckis, Richard Donner, Howard Judge, Tom Holland, and Mary Lambert.
Zemeckis was a producer, I think.
Yeah, he and Joel Silver were producers on it. But anyways, let's end this episode. With that said, the next
We're
episode
promoting
is
our
season.
next podcast, okay?
Yeah, we'll do that eventually.
years from
But yeah, exactly.
Coming
But the next
2032.
But that
the
said,
next but the next episode is the first episode of season 5, episode 1, titled In Praise of Pip. Is directed by Joseph M. Newman, written by Rod Serling. It stars Jack Klugman, Connie Gilchrist, Robert Diamond, and Bill Mummy. So Bill Mummy's back as young Pip. I think this is like the last episode Jack Klugman did for the series, if I remember right. I think. Yeah, it was his last episode of the series, so we'll talk about that. But guys, it's 4th season done. 5th season coming up. We'll see if it's a much better season. We'll see what happens. Jacob,
Yes, see.
we're gonna close out with you first. You have content. It has
do.
things and places and people and stuff and ways of doing things. Where's
Guys.
that at?
If you like old shit, check out my channel, Retro JKXY, where I talk about old shit. And I have a new video coming very soon talking about more old shit, old video game shit. So check it out. Like, subscribe, hit the bell notification.
And comment on his videos from a year ago.
Yay.
Yeah, go to my old dead channel and comment on videos that are from almost 2 years ago about
yeah, say
shit
he's a
nobody
simp
cares
for
about.
media
Yep.
corporations.
At least.
Absolutely. Sent for all the media conglomerates.
But yeah, go ahead to his channel. Triv, content,
Yep.
things.
Don't
delete your videos. That type of.
What?
Where's that at? What?
Quest by Fire.
Yeah. Anyway,
Or 4
if you're interested in random, obscure, or straight up bad shit, I guess stop by my channel. I did a couple of Film Fest kind of sneak peeky things that I saw and really enjoyed. Up next is a Corman thing, just to say thank you to the man that influenced a lot of my liking of Corman or of bad movies and stuff. Working on that, have not had time to finish it. So hopefully by the time this drops, I will have that out.
Excellent. Yeah, Roger Corman. Once again, rest in peace. Alex,
Made a great
you're here with
Fantastic
us.
Four movie.
Yeah.
He
The
did a
most
lot of good
difficult-
ones.
Was it Little Shop of Horrors? But Alex, as always, you still have content. One day you'll do a new video, but we'll wait till then. Where's that at?
You can follow me at my channel, Alex Carson.
Yay.
That's it.
And she did the smart thing by staying off social media, which is probably the best thing anybody can ever do to themselves for their health and well-being.
Yes.
Absolutely.
One of the
it's a
best
toxic-
personal decisions I've made in my life.
Woohoo.
Exactly. I
don't
will
remember that.
say of all the social medias, Blue Sky seems to be the most consistently positive. I mean, that's right now, but they look like they're actually trying to be more positive than that hellscape which is an SEO farm right now. So
X.
and Twitter. I'm not calling it X.
Horn
Fuck that
bots.
shit.
Horn
Yeah,
bots.
horny
Yeah, we put
bot.
an X on Twitter.
Yeah,
Ugh.
Twitter X.
Yes.
Anyways, with me, as you can see, I posted some reviews. One that Triv, I know you watched, you didn't like, which of course was the how was that, In a Violent Nature.
Oh, I didn't mind it. It was the last
Oh, the ending. That's
probably
right. The ending.
15-20 minutes that
Yeah.
didn't really do it for me. But that was personal.
Right.
They
The rest of
didn't
it was
vibe-
fantastic.
Was that Jacob?
It didn't vibe with
It
me.
didn't vibe with her.
Yeah.
Keep up on the lingo, guys. Come on.
Yeah. Right. No, it was
but-
it was a fantastic movie. Great premise. I just it got weird in the last bit. So
Right. But I'm also doing Dark Matter as a TV series day episode by episode review.
as compared to
Um,
a fruitcake.
So
Wasn't Dark Matter already a TV show?
no, that I think it was a movie. I don't remember.
Well,
I
it was
swear I
a
watched-
fruitcake
Does it
as
matter,
compared
though?
to a TV show.
does it dark matter? Does it or does it?
No,
No, but here soon I will be here soon I will be starting my review series for The Boys season 4. So I look forward to that. And that's pretty much it. I'm trying to do more movie reviews, but like I said, I feel like, not interested sometimes.
It's
Sometimes
okay.
it just bores me. Unless it's Furiosa. That was a good movie. So
nice.
anyways, with that said, we'll look forward to the start of season 5 next week. But without further ado, we're gonna head back to the Twilight Zone. And for myself, Triv, Jacob, and Alex, we'll see you guys next time in the Twilight Zone. Peace out, motherfucker.
Bye.